Hi and good night. Welcome to another beautiful Monday night, another beautiful Monday evening. And we are live in Tobago Update Studios for the hour. My name is Edison Thomas. I will be your host/moderator for this afternoon. I do hope that you had a wonderful start to your day. And I hope that your week has started off on a great note, and that your Monday went in such a way it sets up your week to be as productive as possible. All right, getting it straight into what we have to discuss for tonight. Earlier in tonight's edition of the news on Tobago Update Studios, we would have broke the news to you that over the past couple of days, over the weekend, that several high-ranking officials of the Tobago House of Assembly has been the subject of a police investigation by which compounds and property has been seized and compounds have been raided, all right, in order to gather evidence to support the police's investigations. All right. We can't name names at this moment, all right, as to who it was, but we have reached out, as Tobago Update Studios has reached out to the Chief Secretary as well as the Secretary for Education, Research and Technology. However, those attempts to reach those individuals were futile. We also tried to reach Mr. Kelvin Morris, the minority leader, as well. Efforts to get comment from those individuals were futile. All right. So we have to discuss, obviously, which is a big development in the Tobago space, in the public life of the THA. All right. And we have to discuss that. Tonight we have on the panel, no strangers to the show. Once again, we have Mr. Barry Nelson and we have Mr. Max James, all right? Two very informed persons when it comes to the topics that involves Tobago and Tobagonians at large, all right? And again, I'm always enthused when I have them in studio with me, all right? Having discussions with me, because I'm always educated as well as entertained, and the discussions are always insightful. But before we get to them, I want to line up a clip for you that my producers has put up. Do we have the clip? All right. So I've been told that we don't have the clip as yet. So we will go into the discussion straight away then. All right. And yes, guys. So word on the street is that we are having high-ranking members of the THA under serious police scrutiny, to the point where they have been the subject to serious raids. I am saying that these raids have been devious to the point where compounds and officers have been ransacked. So what are your initial thoughts on this development?
Well, I don't know if my elder will give me first ball at this topic.
Well, he ain't saying anything, Barry, so I guess it's you.
Okay. Good night to you. Good night to my fellow panelists there, and good night to the viewing public. You know, this is very troubling, and I will describe it as, it have military coups and so forth.
Yes.
This is an administrative coup against the legitimate government, the Executive Council of the Tobago House of Assembly, which was duly elected 14-1, a landslide victory. And for this administrative coup to be foisted on this administration, it's a bad example. I will tell you why. Because I was listening to the news before I come from our next TV station. I don't want to call it name because I'm on a thing. And the chief administrator was office and equipment was seized. And that is setting a bad precedent. And I think further to, if I heard properly, the warrant that was read to the chief administrator, one of the reasons that they put she cooperate in this so-called propaganda. And I'll tell you why is that dangerous. The chief administrator is the highest public servant in the Tobago House of Assembly. The chief administrator is the go-to person between the between the chief secretary and the public service. And the public service. And if you go in after the chief administrator, that's saying that you are saying that a public officer is cooperating with the politician. It's coming like the head of the public service, the head of the public service who is in the office of the prime minister. It comes like the police. Police could hear something and go and seize the property, the computer, the phone, and saying that the head of the public service is colluding with the prime minister. It's equivalent to that. And that is a dangerous precedent. It's putting the present chief administrator and the administrators in a very awkward position. Because remember, as I said, the various secretaries could only conjure between them create the policy in the public is through the administrator. And when administrator and the chief administrator seeing that police can seize your equipment, your phone, your laptop, and saying that you are cooperating with politicians, that's a dangerous precedent. Dangerous precedent. And this calls for constitutional amendment and the autonomy for Tobago. This is the last straw for Tobagonians to understand that Tobago needs its own autonomy. And that is a bad precedent going on. This is what I call an administrative coup. This is an administrative coup led by independent institutions.
Supposed to be independent.
Yeah, supposed to be this is a very serious thing that all Tobagonians must be worried about. This is not about politics here, you know. This is about your institution. This is your institution called the Tobago House of Assembly. And when you've seen what is going on in the local government, where local government reform is taking place, and boroughs in Trinidad may get more power than the Tobago House Assembly. Tobagonians, get up and get. Get up and get. Smelly coffee, as the proverbial phrase would say.
Mr. James.
Don't let this smile deceive you. I want to tell Dr. Rowley, if somehow he gets Farley and he gets the 13, there are much more than the 13. Let me repeat it for him. If somehow he gets Farley, there are others who can fill their shoes. But it is an absolute assault on our democracy. It is unprecedented. It is unheard of. Where you are attacking. I will say it if the TV didn't say it. I did hear today that the home of the Deputy Chief Secretary,
private residence
at Bell Garden was raided. It is an affront to the executive and the executive powers here. What was, as they say in law, what was the actus reus? What did she do? On a whim and a fancy? What was the probable cause for the issuance of that warrant? If you were attacking the Deputy Chief Secretary, ostensibly, you are attacking the Chief Secretary. The Prime Minister has an affinity with miscalculation. He miscalculated at the 6-6. He so much wanted power, because he's looking at 2025. He changed the law. He got his bottom well whipped at the polls. And he's not going to give up. The Prime Minister must have heard of this debacle. I am tempted to say that he's behind it. But I'm sure he must have heard of the debacle. And as Prime Minister, alongside him with the President, they are the guardians of our democracy. And he ought to by now should have put out a statement in respect of the Tobago House, the assault on the Tobago House of Assembly.
I agree with that, totally.
If we are serious about our democracy, then the Prime Minister has a constitutional duty and a moral duty to say, call off his troops. It is his troops because he is the head of the National Security Council. That's so.
Yeah.
And nothing moves in this country of a significant nature without the Prime Minister knowing.
Yeah.
Gone are the days where politicians can stand up and banter and fatigue each other without people being in fear of some kind of listening device. Where have we gone to? Has Mr. Rowley lost his soul as a Tobagonian? I'll ask him, has he really lost his soul? The assembly was formed in 1918. This version of the assembly. The PNM they fought tooth and nail for it not to happen. In the end, it was watered down. I remember as a young man in this country when E.N.R. Robinson and Dr. Winston Murray were about setting up the assembly, so to speak. And suddenly you heard that there's a ship coming in at Kings Bay. I'm saying that for the PNM trolls and the people who spew nonsense on Facebook and hatred. You all need to come off that. This is not about me or Max James. It's about your children. Lots of them don't know. They don't know the history of it. And the intent was to arrest Robinson and Winston Murray. And immediately, Mr. Robinson, skillful as he was, came out and made a certain statement. And whatever police investigation that might have been in the making was called off. So you see, when the PNM is not in power, they will do everything to mash up the government that is in power. And wanted for the skills and the significant skills of the UNC, that would have been mashed up as well. But all of this, my belief is coming from the audit report that the Prime Minister, Chief Secretary told the Prime Minister he will not give him a copy. It bears significant importance, significant to our democracy. Here you have a Chief Secretary investigating his own division, division of infrastructure.
Infrastructure, yeah.
That's his division. And he's saying, let me see what has happened here. It is his right to do so. And it is his right to withhold a copy of that audit from the Prime Minister or anybody else and to give it to the requisite bodies that deal with discipline and accountability in the public service. That's what the Chief Secretary did. And if they were found to be persons culpable of misdemeanors and fraud and so forth, he has a right to clean up the public service. How can we, after 15 years or 20 years of PNM in power, the country, Tobago, has become so steeped, some parts have become steeped in corruption. That's all they know. 20 years is a significant amount of time. And so they're not accustomed to accountability. Imagine you can send an Auditor General to investigate the Assembly in terms of its accounts, and before you go back to 5 years and 10 years, you're only going to audit 6 months or a year ago. What are they trying to find? So this Chief Administrator, my colleague here touched on it, just come the other day.
Yeah, I was about to ask that person is acting. Why you?
What
She just took the position.
What are you telling the public servants?
What personal effect that she could possibly have on her personal cell phone for you to go and
Well,
seize?
you see, the Prime Minister, let me tell you something. The Prime Minister Lawson Watson was part of the leadership. He lost first rounds trying to investigate Watson and to say, well, you can't hold two positions. He got through his then Attorney General to take the matter to court. The Prime Minister lost. He had to put his tail below his bottom and withdraw. He came on the 6-6 site before that he lost. On the 15 seats, he lost. His last loss was when he had to agree to the appointment or the appointee of the chief secretary. And he's going to lose on this one. Because he's bent on wresting power from the TPP here in Tobago.
All right.
Now, a prime minister cannot run the country like this.
No.
He's saying, I will keep out of Tobago's business. But because they feel that they have a toehold in respect of some audio tape, you're mashing up the country. You want to get your, because he's looking at 2025. I don't believe that it is useful to continue in this political arrangement in this country. You withhold money from the assembly. You extort them at the court. You get the organs of state to file an injunction against the activities of the Tobago House of Assembly, when worse than that is happening in Trinidad.
Right.
And you stop the assembly. We are seeing Tobagonians in the diaspora. You're seeing Tobagonians in Trinidad, how this prime minister is against your development, the development of your motherland. So that when you go to the polls next month, you must vote for Tobago. The prime minister can't stop the tide. That's what Marley said. None of them could stop the tide. But I don't believe staying in this union is relevant any longer. You take away all people by your public policies over the years. So you only have over the 60, 70,000 people here in Tobago, or people are educated for export and for migration purposes for greener pastures. And the rest that remain, you rape our resources, you take all of it and give us $4 on it.
Right.
So, and I don't see change in the foreseeable future. And therefore, I'm a secessionist. All Tobagonians from now on, here and now, should be secessionists. We will stand better for our future, for our present and our future, if we move away from Trinidad. It is unheard of. This is too much.
Right.
Barry says, this is the last straw. Right. It's time for us to break away from Trinidad. There's no benefit to staying in this political union.
All right. And we have the clip now from our producers. You could run the clip.
If I were to tell you that right now, the TTPS, the police, the ERLA squad has warrants for the devices of THA members to investigate an audio recording about people getting jobs and then on their free time promoting the party that they support. If I were to tell you that police time on the instructions clearly of the PNM, of Rowley, and the political motives of the PNM, that the police are acting with alacrity now to go and investigate something that they don't even know if there's a crime or if there's any crime. And they never went to get warrant to find out how Rhoda Barrett gets she work at NLCB and how the process went and who was interviewed and whether it was approved by PMCD and who was the interviewing panel and how much she make and what she do and how many hours she does that for NLCB. No investigation. No investigation coming to conclusion about a minister and a senator sitting down with 4.4 million and 1.8 million in his own personal account while MTS paying Venture Credit Union when Venture Credit Union had no contract with MTS. No investigation into $143,000 in cash that a woman lie and say she take it out the next bank when she did not. No investigation into NGC and Petrotrin. Fake oil gone dead. Petrotrin closed down. All 1.2 million barrels of fuel coming in and then going to Venezuela in 2021, 2020. No investigation into that. No investigation into Balize House, how that thing gone up so high. How so many contractors dropping off things. Where the donations came from. But police could go and get warrant in Tobago because somebody say they have an audio recording of people discussing propaganda. This is Trinidad and Tobago? Or is this a mongoose gang? Is this PNM police? Erla, you have no shame, Erla. Erla, you are the world's worst. Your PNM petticoat and uniform showing. Erla, move out of the Commissioner of Police residence and move into Balize House, where they put a special floor for you, donated by contractors who got contract from the PNM. This is your country under Rowley and the PNM. Every single citizen who is right thinking and a patriot of Trinidad and Tobago must reject the PNM. This is madness. This is total abuse of power, dictatorial dictatorship, and the covert taking over of all independent institutions in a democracy. We are in a dangerous place. We are not in Tobago. That's not the point. The point is the law must be equal. The law must be blind. The law must be independent. This is madness in Trinidad and Tobago. And you know the only solution? For you, the people, to get rid of PNM in every nook and cranny, every job, every position, and do it for a sustained period of 10 to 15 years. Think about it.
All right, and we're back. All right, so we had Mr. Annie Roberts on his take. That was posted 1 day ago, 24 hours ago. All right, and he was letting the nation know that warrants have been issued for devices and to search the properties of high-ranking THA officials based on a voice note or the audio recording that was released that we were also discussing in Tobago over the past couple months. All right, on the allegations of propaganda and peddling propaganda and using public funds in order to fund a propaganda machine. All right, and so he outlined a number of different allegations that are also up in the air under the Trinidad government, and I could also add that there are also a number of issues that could come that weren't investigated, all right, over the past 5 to 10 years in the Tobago government, while the second party that was in power, we have never once seen this kind of action from the TTPS. This is unprecedented, an unprecedented move. All right, we want to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll continue to discuss, is this Trinidad versus Tobago? We'll be right back.
From the experts that created the Zinger sandwich comes the KFC Crispy Barbecue Zinger. Cheddar cheese, crispy onions, the most delicious Kentucky Fried Chicken, and barbecue sauce. Get ready for a whole new level of flavor.
Come one, come all. It's time to join in the Tobago Heritage Festival 2023. Homage. All are we, and all are who we be. To Tobago. Indulge in the awesomeness that is embodied in the spirit of Tobago at the 36th Tobago Heritage Festival. Celebrate a rich, vibrant, hypnotic showcase of our cultural legacy. Yes, from July 21st to August 1st, 2023. Take the island tour. Sample the sumptuous variety of local indigenous delicacies. Enjoy the recreation of old-time village life. Dance to the drum. Feel the rhythm of steel pan. Experience the way of life. languages, and oral traditions. Be part of the journey to our we heritage, honoring our past, celebrating our present, and inspiring our future. Relive our unique culture. Join in the preservation of the heritage of we island of Tobago.
Tobago, after freeness is more speed and better TV. Get a free Samsung smartphone and free installation, plus 200 megabits per second, Paramount Plus, and more for only $299 with a select 200 plan from Flow. Visit online at discoverflow.co today.
October will never be better with Tobago Carnival Fever. Okay, passage and come on over.
All right, and we're back, and we're discussing, is this Trinidad versus Tobago? We are airing out the views of our panelists as we discuss the move by the recent move by the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service on high-ranking THA officials, raiding their properties, seizing their personal effects on a warrant to investigate a voice note that has been circulating over the past couple months or so, right? As we went through the break, I was discussing, there have been, guys, I'm going to the panel now, there has been, over the past couple years, in the politics of Trinidad and Tobago, a number of controversies with evidence that should warrant also a similar action by the TTPS, all right? I could bring up the 10 million missing that was supposed to go to the airline.
The tourism here.
Right, in the division of tourism. We also have Zipline Gate.
Yeah.
All right? Millions of dollars missing. I get, yes, Milshiv, all right? And we have never once seen a move, right? And this is millions of dollars in question, right? That we could actually put a figure to, all right? That is actually gone. We're never getting it back. And we have never seen any accountability, anybody brought into question, anybody investigated by this, for this. It has never warranted a action by the TTPS of this stature before. But now, what is the change?
No, let me go back. Let me go back to the thing. You see the expansion on that terminal building have a lot to do with the behavior of a certain political leader. Couple that with that lanting around at Bacalet, the thing, all of that. If you listen to certain words that he said, when he said, you remember the executive note that the chief secretary would have read, I think after the first executive meeting concerning those contracts was given out before the election. That is an election that the PNM, not only the PM, the Prime Minister and the PNM wanted to win in Tobago so that they could get the lands at Crown Point to do what they want, because there were certain people was to give them those lands. To give them those lands. That is an election. And they went out of the way to do everything to win that election. You can remember just before the final 2 days coming up to the election, the Prime Minister was on his sick bed. He came off his sick bed to come and campaign in Tobago because that was the election that he had to win. After the election, he and the chief secretary was having this one-on-one meeting that I never approve of. You can't go into a meeting the chief secretary and the thing. Nothing wrong there. They're supposed to reach at some point in time. And then thereafter, there's no meeting after with
to tell the public what was discussed.
what the public was discussing.
Yeah.
I never approve of that.
Mm-hmm.
I made that known. Then the prime minister said recently when this fracas between he and the chief secretary, he don't like when a man not to his word.
Mm-hmm.
The former prime minister, remember those words when this prime minister said he don't like his money to sleep out.
Mm-hmm.
The former Manning said that when this man is challenged, how he behaves like a raging bull.
Mm-hmm.
So when you put all of this together, there is something had to do and furthermore, that the prime minister would not have invested so much money in Tobago on that expert terminal without anything. So all of these things, I do have the facts, but all of these things is pointing back to before the elections, just before election, and after election, and those meetings that were with the chief secretary. I don't know what was discussed, but when he said that he don't like a man who don't keep his word, he says plenty. He says plenty.
Where's the difference between a 10 million missing, right? And he was missing under his same administration because he was prime minister then, right? When he had Zipline Gate, I think that between 4 to 6 million missing, right? Again, under his administration, he came and he defended the Auditor General's report when it is that they had made claim that these monies were missing, right? But yet on the suspicion, nobody house got raided, no laptops were seized, no. Yet, but now on the suspicion, the TTPS is acting with such vigor. We have never seen this before.
What is the crime? The crime of conspiracy? What is the crime? I'm no lawyer, but I've done enough law. I've passed enough items of areas of law. And for conspiracy to take root and to hold, you must have an agreement. So this is why I started my conversation here tonight. What is the actus reus? What were the actions really? What are they identified? I believe people will be in big trouble in respect of the search of government property without a proper warrant. I believe the warrant is ill-founded. But why are you coming to Bell Garden to search the deputy chief secretary's home? What crime did she commit? That she cooperated on a suspicion? You issue a warrant based on a suspicion? Then we live in a police state.
And it's not even...
The prime minister is the head of the national security. He must know. I'm calling on the president tonight to investigate the prime minister. She has sworn to defend the Constitution. And where actions are undertaken to mash up our Constitution and our democracy, the president has a particular role and a solemn duty based on a solemn oath to defend the Constitution. Yes, she is the only person that has that oath in this country. She is sworn to defend it. So I'm calling on her as a former secretary, somebody who contributed to the development of Tobago's democracy. Max James, I'm calling on the president to defend the Constitution and call the prime minister to a meeting and say, you must have heard of this. What have you done as a result of what you've heard? Now, clearly, Mr. Moderator, the way how I see it is that here you have an amount of $100 million and other amounts being called upon the chief secretary to pay. I believe a certain high-ranking official that if certain contractors are paid, he will be paid too. If the chief secretary pays that amount of money to that particular contractor and contractors, I'm very certain, this is my opinion, that particular ranking official in this country, he wants a payday too, because they are friends. And because those amongst are not paid, he is taking revenge. He wants his money. His money is sleeping out and he don't like that. His money is sleeping out. He already said it. So he's going to frustrate the assembly because right now his money is sleeping out. And the Tobagonians have to see that way. Right now, that particular fellow high-ranking official in this country, his money is sleeping out. They are bosom buddy friends. They have investments together. And his money is sleeping. So he'll do anything to get that money.
Max, here, let me be real. You talk about the president and calling the president, right? When we had that discussion on the appointment of the president earlier this year, I raised my concerns about the president having a political career under the current administration. Seeing the job that she is now called to do and the career that she has led as a politician, do you now have faith in that office to be able to do the right thing in order to rein in and defend the Constitution and defend the people of Tobago? If it is that powers are being abused.
Well,
I never had faith in that process. I'm of the belief that a president should be voted in by the majority. Because the person who appoints you can always go back and disappoint you. You have to toe the line in many occasions. Robinson was the only man that had the testicular fortitude to say no to Pandey, et al. And she is no Pandey. She's no Robinson, sorry. But I'm hoping somewhere she can find it in her, because her oath is to defend the Constitution. It's the only oath where defend is lettered as part of the oath of a president or of the oaths in this country. So
but Max, let me just come in. I agree with you. I agree with you. But before the president could, which I agree with, the president is supposed to defend the institution called it Tobago. The people of Tobago should lead by defending this institution called it Tobago.
Well, we have to defend our country here, Tobago.
No,
I am calling Tobago a country. I've always called it a country because we were a country before. And I believe that the circumstances of the day, the present politics of the day, warrant us leaving the union. It has never worked for us. It will never work for us. And it is time that we wake up on us. Let me make the point. It has never worked for us, Barry. You can't say yes for that. It's never. Our children have to be educated. We have to build institutions here. We can't build them.
I agree.
We have to pander to what happens in Trinidad. Our people are leaving our shores, and we're almost assimilated by Trinidad.
But in the meantime, we have to live. In the meantime, we have to live.
But we have to make plans to live.
Yes. But in order for that, we have to defend our shore. Because let me tell you something.
I am hoping the chief secretary tomorrow. I'm certain he's going to call a meeting tomorrow. I don't know for sure. I haven't spoken to him. I haven't spoken to anybody. That's the truth. But I'm hoping.
But he had to start with him.
Yes.
And must start with him.
He must call a public meeting in James Park, not later than this week.
I agree with the public meeting.
So he must account to the people and tell people what is on his mind, not only through a news conference. We have heard him on the platform. We want to hear him because this is of serious proportions. And he must hold a public meeting right in James Park.
Freedom Park.
And he must also, Robinson did it, you know. You actually remember. Robinson mounted a mission. Troy will have all those letters and details and so forth. But he mounted a mission in the face of PNM dastardly behavior and mounted a political mission throughout the Caribbean. That's when Williams pulled back. This chief secretary has to know the history of that. I'm sure he can find it if he wants to. But he must mount a mission and explain to the Caribbean governments. And they all know the Prime Minister. They know that he's not an easy fella. Right? From what I've heard, people going around, it is the most hated man in Trinidad and Tobago. This present Prime Minister. It is the most hated man.
Even by his own supporters.
Even by his own PNM people don't like him. They tell you that Frank, I can't call names. They don't want him.
I have a question. Guys. So let me interject, right? I have a question. Seeing as though that we have had all this action, by the Prime Minister, even though he did say that Tobago is not his, there are a number of things that is not his business in Tobago, all right? But yet we have we have seen on a number of occasions he has the most to say about Tobago, right? Can this result in a change in government? Do you see this resulting in a change in government, or is this not?
Is this Tobago's government?
Tobago's government, yes.
Or possibly.
Or is it driving persons away from?
In other quarters, they call this particular gentleman Dr. Chaos.
Mm-hmm.
He thrives on confusion. In respect of his own party, he did say that he's the mafiosi and will kill you. And then he added, politically. I don't know if that last word, politically, was meant to cover up maybe what was in his mind. You understand what I'm saying? But this particular chap, money is, I want to say it enough times for people to understand what's going on. His money is sleeping out tonight as we speak, and he wants it.
He
wants.
I don't agree with that.
His money is sleeping out.
Right, Max. All right. So another question, right?
And he wants it.
We spoke about the president, right, being having a political career. All right. Now, so we have been seeing. So it can be said, or there can be an assumption made, that she will lean to the side of the PM. We have seen that the PM, well, allegations have been made that the PM has had his way inside the police service as well. All right? Where we had the whole debacle with Mr. Gary Griffith. He had to step down. And so there was two appointees of police commissioner afterwards. We also have seen the Prime Minister go after the judiciary. All right? There have been officials that have been lambasted by the Prime Minister inside the judicial system as well. Are we now seeing, or can we make an assumption, right, that a consolidation of power is happening here? Because I can't see.
You mean between the PNM Tobago, PNM Trinidad?
No, consolidation of the arms of government.
Okay. Well, clearly, it seems so that he is going to do everything to win back power or to find some ways and means. For example, so let me tell you this scenario. If it is that the chief secretary is charged and convicted, let me tell Tobagonians how serious it is. It's quite possible, based on what they're doing. And that charge at common law carries a jail sentence of more than a year, and therefore the chief secretary is out of office.
Okay.
Hence the reason, and any of the other secretaries, if it is so eventually adjudicated at common law conspiracy, that tort in law, there's a tort in law. Tort means wrongdoing. So that tort in law of conspiracy carries a jail sentence of more than a year. It means in terms of the Tobago House Assembly Act, if you have been jailed for more than a year, or you've committed an act that carries a sentence of more than 1 year, and you're so convicted and you're out of office. So based on how this particular PNM government is operating, any number could play, and therefore you're likely to lose Faith Brebner. You're likely to lose Farley. I might even lose my own brother. I might lose a lot of the secretaries. We don't know. We don't know what the police have. Right? So you see how this game is played out in the politics of Tobago. And therefore, I'm calling the people of Tobago, when the chief secretary makes his call, and I hope he does make the call, to gather Tobago and send a message to Prime Minister Robinson and to the president. The president is sworn to defend the Constitution. Right now, the Constitution,
but you see,
Tobago House Assembly Act, is being challenged, and it's likely that they can use their parliamentary majority.
Mm-hmm.
And
No, but
do
before-
some
no, but to be-
it's not going to work.
No, but hold
He
on
caused
now.
so much chaos.
But before that could happen, the investigation and the files have to go to the DPP in order for charges to be laid.
And he's an independent man.
He's an independent.
Supposed to be.
So
So all supposed to be.
well, well. So, but I think I honestly think that the police is just going along just to please.
Yeah, but Barry, if a police officer comes to your home down so tonight,
Yeah.
your wife will tremble, the children in your house, they
Well,
might not sleep, they might not eat.
Well,
And people are going to say, but hey, Barry, the real Barry last night.
Well,
How you feel?
No, well, once you have a warrant, I have to abide by the warrant. I have to abide. I'm a law-abiding citizen.
We all have to abide by the warrant.
Well, right. So I know my hands is clean.
but
My money, I have no money outside, you know. So I don't have nothing. I have nothing to fear about. I have no money outside.
No, you're saying it a different way. You don't, even though you have money outside, you ain't breaking up a whole
I
country.
don't have any. I don't have. I have no money
Man say you
outside.
have no money.
No, that's it. Just for instance, if you have money tonight outside, for instance, but you ain't not going to break up a whole country to get that money.
If it dead, it dead.
That is the point I'm making.
Yeah, okay, all right. No, but wow, you know, but when I heard
And the money is really ill-gotten gains, you know.
All right, Max. Let Barry continue.
right. You know, I want to go back to this point. When you hear the chief administrator house and equipment thing, that's a serious that is a serious thing.
I think what happened there.
That is very serious. But when you saying you are saying that the chief administrator of the Tobago Assembly is corrupt.
A brand new chief
No.
administrator.
How is she going to function tomorrow?
No, that is the previous one. That is not the.
Not the present one.
No, not the present
Not
one.
the present one, they already, the previous one.
Yeah,
that
the
just
previous
retired.
one. Yeah, Mr.
Okay.
John.
Okay.
So what? In other words, you are putting fear
Mm-hmm.
in all the administrators and the chief administrator here, because you imagine the executive council meet and they agree on a certain policy, and that's supposed to be carried out
By the chief.
by the chief administrator.
Of course.
They're in fear. That fear factor is there. This is a serious
tremendous
thing, which can stymie the governance
Production there.
governance of this. And this is why I said this is an administrative coup, and we have seen it with
Certainly.
the release of funds and so forth. We have seen it.
Because what is happening, I could never see ministers of government in Trinidad houses being raided.
No, this is no.
And I think
I'm
I'm calling on the Prime Minister Rowley. Please,
This is a very serious.
you are the head of the National Security. You know what is happening. Don't stay silent in the back. Let the history judge you by stopping this dastardly action. Prime Minister.
No, he can't stop it.
Prime Minister. I believe he could.
He can't
And
stop
we
it.
believe that he could.
Yeah.
I'm sure you believe he could. I am calling on the Prime Minister. Do the honorable thing, Prime Minister, and stop this because you know about it.
You have to instruct the commissioner of police.
But he could. Through his Minister of National Security.
No, well, the police is independent.
Well, they will say so. Independent what? Who it is that appointed this present commissioner?
The parliament.
Good. Who has parliament?
Who have the majority?
Who has the majority?
We have the
Who has
majority.
the cabinet?
Okay.
All right.
So I mean to say, we all talk about it as it can happen. I'm saying this is a very serious matter,
Very serious.
and the Prime Minister should
38
step in.
years.
Let him show his mettle and his love for this. Don't break it down any further, and let him find a way, which he always finds a way, for him to sit down with first division and second officers and to decide that a new unit will be formed and everybody's against him.
And not only that, the people they complain about the chief secretary was silent with his voicemail. People dying every day for 3, 4, 5 murders, and then the commissioner of police. How long she took before she could come out and make her public? And she
About
did
3 to 4 months.
pre-recorded and said out.
About the 3
And
to 4 months.
and nobody's saying. Even the Prime Minister was saying that our chief secretary was silent on the response
And
to
the voice
the.
note.
And now people were dying, and you were not hearing the commission, and not a word from the Prime Minister. Nobody died in this voice note, but every day you have 3-4 voters, and we have not heard the police commissioner. Not until a meeting was held with you over the weekend, and probably the Prime Minister say, "Hey, you have to say something." Madness.
Yeah.
These are things that you having people to think that the Prime Minister control these independent bodies.
All these
Yes,
independent bodies have been weaponized to attack the Chief Secretary and his team, and in essence, Tobago. It is an existential threat to Tobago's
and democracy of the country, and the democracy of the
existential
country.
threat to our development in Tobago, and Tobagoans of right thinking, big and small, here and there, must stand up against the assault
On the
on
institution,
our institution called the Tobago Assembly. The executive and the senior officials whose homes have been raided for no good
public
reason.
servants.
And I'm saying this is the straw.
Yeah, this is the straw.
This is the straw. There's no usefulness in staying in this union. It has not worked,
I know
and
about
it
that
will
one.
not work.
I know about that one.
Well, that's your opinion. But I don't think that you
I have
can
a final-
mount
I have a final question.
any serious thing to show that this union has worked for Tobago.
I have a final question. You said that the police service or the institutions, independent institutions, can be seen as being weaponized. We've seen that if you watch internationally, right? You watch the United States government, there has been recent findings that the Department of Justice has been weaponized against
President
the
Trump,
president
former
or political opponents. Is something like this we're seeing going on? Because again, it's the same rules for thee but not for me, with the whole thing that they are charging Mr. Trump with the documents on XYZ, where we also had persons on the other side being accused of the same crime, but nothing came of it. But now we're talking an actual prison sentence for the former President Trump. Is it the
That's
same
all
thing we're seeing here? Is it rules for thee but not for me?
I wouldn't say that. I have been following the thing with Trump. There's a clear thing that the independent institution in America is stating that the law is for everybody. I am seeing that. I'm not seeing that here. Look, for example, the youth minister Foster Cummings with this credit union thing that's Anil Roberts
just
spoke about.
yeah.
Nothing, no investigation. I tell you about millions of dollars. But you see, the problem is that the kind of politics, the racial politics that is happening in Trinidad, it's coming into Tobago, because once you don't support the PNM thinks that you are supporting the UNC. And this is why. So once you don't support the PNM in Tobago, they consider you and they watch at you as UNC. And that is the problem. Tobago, we don't get involved in the politics of Trinidad.
It was the rhetoric in the last election for sure.
Well, yes, we don't get involved. We're trying to get our power, our autonomy, our rights, so that we can develop as an island. And you all down in Trinidad, all sort out all the problem. But the minute that you are not PNM, you're in trouble from the PNM. I experienced that. In 2003. I used to work in the THA. I used to act in the THA, and I went up for the elections. I didn't know hearsay. I worked in social service as a social welfare officer. And after, couldn't go back there. And when I went to the administrator and told the administrator that I passed this exam and I'm senior certain people in the social welfare, she said she will investigate. 2 or 3 days afterward, this is not hearsay now. This is happened to me. She called me, and you know what she told me? Mr. Nelson, this is bigger than she. This is bigger than she. All because I went up against the PNM.
Right. In 2003.
in 2003, 2003.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All
That
right.
is what the PNM does to people once you support them. They want to cut your throat.
So what do you think should be the next move for this administration? If you was to give political advice to the TPP and the leader, Mr. Fali Chavez Augustine, if you was to give some advice, what would you say?
I will say, Mr. Fali, he is the custodian, he's the head of this institution called the Tobago House of Assembly. We had an election, he was duly elected by the people of Tobago with a landslide majority, 14-1. And he have to come out and defend the institution that many Tobagonians, like the late Jeff Davidson, Hochoy Charles, Robinson, all these people would have fought for. And now he's the custodian of that institution. He have to stand up and be counted. The people of Tobago would have put him in office because by right, he would have led the campaign of the then PDP.
Mm-hmm.
And he's now the head. He have to, the institution called the Tobago House of Assembly is under attack.
Mm-hmm.
By the PNM, headed by Dr. Rowley and the police and all that thing, and he have to stand up and defend it. And if he defend it, that will be a big disappointment, not only to me, but all right-thinking Tobagonians. And he must do that in the morning. He must do that in the morning. He must let this week pass,
mm-hmm.
and call a press conference,
mm-hmm.
or hold some meeting and defend this institution called the Tobago Assembly. This is not about Fali. This is not about Faith. This is about Zorisha. This is about the people of Tobago and the institution. This is our only hope.
Right. And to wrap up, Max, if you was to give Mr. Augustine some political advice, well, you were in the political field, you serve as a secretary.
I suspect that the chief secretary, just as my friend Barry said,
Mm-hmm.
I'll go further. He has to call out Tobago. And he must do that now. Maybe it's an opportunity to expose all that he has discussed with the Prime Minister.
Definitely.
Because they're not supposed to be secret conversations. I also, like Barry, did not like the fact that they had met one-to-one. And we must do as the President of the United States and those countries. Whatever you discuss with another leader, somebody must be there,
Mm-hmm.
and a recording of it is undertaken. Because for the Prime Minister to come out and say, I ain't like Fali, he didn't stand up to his word. The Prime Minister must not make any secret deals, nor the Chief Secretary make any private. But I think he's learned his lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
And I think going forward, that is how it must be.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you're going to meet with this particular gentleman, have somebody, one or two other persons present. So tomorrow, the Chief Secretary must call out the entire Tobago. Who comes.
Mm-hmm.
I believe he has earned that right. And I think people are sufficiently incensed. You have to beat the iron while it's hot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people are particularly incensed as to all these occurrences that are taking place on our shores here in Tobago.
Right.
My own opinion, I want to repeat it. This union has not worked. It is not working. Will never work in the present configuration. If we can't get something that will work for us, it's better that we leave. We have enough money to be derived from our gas deposits and oil deposits. So no longer will that be sent to Trinidad if we acquire it and we run it and we do it for ourselves. So that I'm hoping the Chief Secretary will show good leadership tomorrow, and the political leadership, both executive and political leadership tomorrow, and to rally Tobago together in unison so as to save us from this existential threat that this Prime Minister is unleashing on Tobagonians here and in Trinidad and by extension, the diaspora.
All right. And with that, we will take a short break and we will be right back as we continue the discussion.
I feel everybody should come out next week Tuesday because this sounds like a serious business.
Darrell Spring Whim Electoral District. It's your turn. The THA Executive Council is coming to meet with you as we continue our District Town Hall meeting series. We invite you to come out in your numbers at the Whim Community Center on Tuesday, 18th July at 6:30 p.m. as the Executive Council members give updates on existing and upcoming programs and projects. You also get the opportunity to
post your views, whatever is troubling you, what your concerns, what you need improve.
So join us from 6:30 p.m. on Tuesday, July 18th at the Whim Community Center for the Executive Council's District Town Hall meeting. People of Spring Garden, Whim, Union, Maris Hill, Plymouth Road, Glen Road, Darrell Spring, Orange Hill Road, and Mount Mary. This meeting is for you. Remember, your voice matters.
Everybody only worrying. Never ever worry. Don't mind how things looking hard. I tell them never ever worry. If your life can't get damaged bad. I tell them never ever worry. What I'm saying is true. So just consider Tatil is always right here for you. I tell them never ever worry. Don't mind if life make you sad. I tell them never ever worry. If your house get flooded out real bad. I tell them never ever worry. What I'm saying is true. So just consider Tatil is always right here for you. I tell them never ever worry. If sickness catch you off guard. I tell them never ever worry. If times fall on you real hard. I tell them never ever worry. What I'm saying is true. So just consider Tatil will always be here for you.
Never worry about a thing. Tatil, where people are people. You know what I mean.
Coconut's Cafe, the buffet restaurant that specializes in all your tasty local dishes. For breakfast and for lunch. Breakfast includes coconut bake and sada roti, served with chokers, bull joil, and sausages in tomato sauce. Not forgetting beef and cheese pies, shepherd's pie, macaroni pie, and rice in various styles. Meat served in a variety of flavors, garden salads, and pasta salads. All this accompanied by fruit juices, coconut water, your choice of a great combination to appease your taste buds. So call us today to order as we are here to accommodate your busy schedules or if you are having a cooking day off. Tobago Glass Supplies has been a leading name for over 37 years in the glass and aluminum market in Tobago. We provide an extensive range of high-quality, innovative aluminum and glass products for commercial and residential use. Competitive prices with superior and professional services by committed employees who are guided by rigid quality standards. Tobago Glass Supplies specializes in the manufacture and installation of glass and aluminum products that are essential to today's homeowners and the business environment. We are engaged in marketing, sales, and installation of a variety of products. These ranges from windows and doors to necessities such as mirrors for homes and vehicles, designed and manufactured in-house or imported.
All right, and we continue the discussion. Is this Trinidad versus Tobago? Before we move forward, we just want to express that the views of our panelists are not the views of Tobago Updates Television. All right, and so we continue the discussion that we had. And for the past hour, we have been discussing the recent raids by the TTPS on high-ranking police officials in the Tobago House of Assembly. All right, we have been We have been informed that properties have been raided, private effects have been seized, even to the effects of former employees of the THA have been affected by this police investigation. Obviously, they are investigating Voice Note Gate, the voice note that has been circulating over the past month and a half about alleged propaganda and using public funds to fund this propaganda machine. All right? And we continue with our panelists here tonight, Mr. Barry Nelson, Mr. Max James. We'll have tougher discussion on what the THA as a body can do, what they should do moving forward, going forward with this police investigation. Is it something that they just need to put their tails between their legs and take, or is it something that they need to fight against to the highest capabilities?
Moderator, as you go for the break there, as a public servant, I could imagine the thoughts of public servants moving forward here now in the public service. They will be reluctant to take instructions. They will be reluctant to do things that, they're always asking. They will always ask, although they know, although they will go by they have the authority in front of their faces and all these things. There will be so much reluctancy to do their work, sign off, to prepare. This, because of the fear that, at some point in time, if they sign off on something or they do something, that their homes and their phones could be taken and be raided.
Yeah.
That is the mindset that hard-working public servants moving forward, and there will be, and there will be stubbornness supervisors, supervisor will get problems from certain public servant because public servant will not want to do certain things.
Yes.
This is the mindset. This will cause public servant to be, and that will stymie what this present assembly could achieve. And this is why I call it an administrative coup.
Right.
You've seen that THA taking weeks to get their funds and all this kind of thing. They can't get funds to do their thing. This is from what I see. I'm in the public service for so much years. I of the opinion that this thing is orchestrated, well planned, and executed.
I myself have experienced that where we have managers in certain companies or state-run companies. They already are under so much pressure to perform, and so they need to dot every I and cross every T in order to spend a dime or to enact any policy or to move forward with anything. Now, under the threat of your laptops and your offices and all this being raided, imagine now how much more afraid they would be.
No, and not only that, public servant, right now we're in the technology age.
Yeah.
And we do things by emails. Nobody will, public servants, don't send no email to me. Don't send no email, because if you are a person of target, don't send no email to me. And this is where we reach. And public servants are done demotivated because they have not got no increase in salary, the 4% and all these things. And to be public servants to be especially the highest public servant in the country, the former. I know this lady, she worked by I know this lady, she was the PS by Incast. A career public servant of over 30-something years. And for you to leave, to serve.
And leave.
Serve diligently not only in Tobago and in Trinidad. And you just retire. You ain't get I sure she ain't get your gratuity and pension yet. And for your home and your device to be taken away.
On a whim.
On a whim. And this is
what's going on?
What was going on with how you think you want public servants to move forward in the institution called the Tobago Assembly? After you, the highest public servant, the former chief administrator, after so much years This is your pension and gratuity by taking away your phone and laptop, in embarrassing in front of your family and your loved ones.
Right.
No, I can't take this. No.
We could ask. We could. I want to get some. I want to get a answer on this. Right. The voice note has 2 people in it. Right. 2 persons. Right. Now, if you want to make a case to say, all right, these persons are under investigation. All right. How could then we could take the longer voice note was about 8 minutes long. Again, still only 2 persons confirmed, right? How then we could take that, spread it to how many other officials that working under the assembly, and get a warrant? Which court? At such thinly veiled assumptions when it's only 2 people.
I want to know who magistrate or thing give those warrants here.
And this is why I asked at the outset. On what basis did the magistrate? What evidence did the police or whoever present has to be the police?
I think these are questions we need answered
to the magistrate to cause him to be of such a mind and conviction that I can allow these warrants to be distributed to certain persons. It has to be an overwhelming amount of
evidence,
because you can't give up on just that kind of suspicion, right? So that I'm worried as to what would have prompted the magistrate to have done that. I hope I'm not arrested for saying that, and so forth. But I'm here wondering for the entire evening when I got the news that my deputy chief secretary's home was raided. I know where she lives, and it saddened me on the occasion of that search. I myself am wondering whether my phone, tonight or tomorrow, could be seized, because you have other persons, as you said, involved in the. No one has admitted that I, Max James, I am the voice of that. So it's all suspicion. There's nothing wrong, as I try to tell Tobagonians, because a lot of us don't understand what took place. In government, people strategize all the time. Countries do it. That's how they survive.
That's the nature of politics.
And it doesn't have to be politics. In your own home and your own business, you have strategies. You have competitors. And you always have to strategize to survive. Especially in these realms, you have to survive on sound strategy, and then the strategies have to shift as circumstances warrant that they shift for your own political survival. And therefore, again, somebody needs, I've been hearing for the whole evening, the chief secretary and they better get their senior counsel ready. All right? I have been intimated by certain persons that where this is likely to end. So again, I repeat to the Prime Minister, if you believe you have lost all your battles so far and you're likely to lose the rest of them, if he believes he can get Farley, there's another Farley waiting. Perhaps even brighter or stronger, more robust, but certainly not weaker. If he believes that Faith, he can get Faith, there are other Faiths out there, perhaps brighter and stronger and more robust than this present one. So he better understand that what he's playing with, and what he's asking for, he might very likely get it and get something worse than what he's trying to remove. And so one of my brothers will say that the next Trinidadian to run Tobago or to control Tobago has just been conceived. Let me say it for Tobagonians. The next Trinidadian for Tobagonians to understand. Those are not my words, and I credit to my brother. The next Trinidadian to control Tobago just now conceive. Think about that.
So that's why you say that we will still be in the union with Trinidad and Tobago?
If we remain in the union, a Trinidadian, under an arrangement that does not align us with our aspirations and our own version of self-governance, we are likely to remain under a Trinidadian for the next generation. I might very well die, God forbid. And that happens.
40 years.
Because a lot of you don't know what happened in the Robinson days, in my time. A lot of people who talk and mistalk today don't understand the salaries that Tobagonians, that secretaries work for, $1,800 a month, $2,000 a month. I was getting $9,000 a month. It went up to $11,000 a month. With some books, it went up to about $15,000. That's what I was working for in this modern age. Let me tell you how bad these guys are. They said that we had paid ourselves. The Salary Reviews Commission took a very long time to determine what our salary should have been. The Chief Secretary gauged the figure as best as he could and paid us that. When Anselm London became the Finance Secretary, and on the heels of the Salary Review Commission setting the right salary, we end up with a surplus. He took every cent, and I only end up with $400. $400. This is how evil the PNM is. This is how evil the PNM is. I remember when I fasted on 2 bottles of water in James Park for a few days. Me alone. Everybody else checking out. Orville London had his same finance. I have the Hansard at home. They took a decision. Until I made that action, they pulled back. They were saying once you were working for $4,999, you could not get a gratuity.
Okay.
And I said, I grew up in this trade union movement for years.
Yes.
I was a labor secretary. You can't do that. People working for years, and you saying that once a salary under $5,000, they can't get a pension.
Over 5,000 or below?
Below 5,000,
okay.
4,999.
Right.
So I said, but this is crazy. So they have a habit of pauperizing workers. That's the point I'm getting at.
Yeah.
The PNM has a habit of giving a low percentage increase. Now they're trying to ingratiate the police and say, well, I'm willing to pay all some more money, because the local government elections coming around. They never have had any love for public officers. So when the police come on instruction, I believe the police are right-thinking people. But I believe certain instructions have gone on and they have to follow it. So I'm not against the police. They're doing what they are asked to
told to do.
Or told to do. Right? But it comes to my mind, as you correctly put it, that public officers will be frightened. So what he's trying to do is to make the Tobago public service ungovernable.
Ungovernable,
And that strikes at the very root of our existence. If the public service doesn't function, then the society can't function.
Nothing happens.
And I'm laying that squarely at the feet of the Prime Minister.
And so here, is this a coincidence, guys? We have had the issues at Spell for permits. As you know, Spell can be one of our main revenue earners. Right? We have had those issues at Spell. We have had issues where even our citizens it can be said our citizens who are accosted taking more than $1 million out of our economy in the form of ticketing by the licensed officers that was sent to Tobago without even collaboration with the officers over here, right? For which the Assembly has administration over, right? And now we have the situation where police officers are carrying out raids and searches on high-ranking public officials on suspicions on a voice note that they weren't even involved in. All right. Can we now see that this is a coordinated attack?
It has always
a coincidence?
been a coordinated. They are looking at 2025. They are very fearful of that audit when it is finally, the findings are finally made public, because there is a suspicion that certain former PNM high-ranking officials are named in that audit. And certain other, perhaps public officers too. One has been fired. So it has been a fraudulent ring of politicians and senior executives in Assembly. The Chief Secretary has broken that up effectively. Who tell you, Farley Augustine, to do that? We will get you. And when people have money outside, they want it. And therefore, that is the basis. In terms of this is what I was trying to remember and to say. The former chief administrator was the one that would have sent
the file
down the Public Service Commission. She ain't involved in no audio recording.
No.
So who tells she? You ought to have known better. Why are you sending that file that caused one man to be fired and other people named in it? We will get you. So as you correctly said again, it may happen that certain senior public officials might be afraid to do their jobs. Because one, having retired, even after you retire, they're coming for you. So, and again, I'm laying all of that at the Prime Minister's feet in terms of how he has managed this public service. This is at the root of the public service.
Yeah.
And he, by extension, is the head of the entire public service in Trinidad and Tobago. So therefore, when you sit back as Prime Minister and allow these things to happen, and even delayed the implementation of a chief administrator, and one just retire, this president might say, if I send certain things to the Public Service Commission, they might raid my home too. And remember, this present one, is Farley's choice. But because she's supposed to do his executive bidding.
Yeah, once the executive council
and made a decision, she has to carry it out.
She has to execute.
But then she might be reticent in respect of the performance of her duties now. Because people say, me and my house get rid of it.
And I will tell you.
And this one is a good God-fearing woman, from what I know her.
Yeah.
It's a
And
God-fearing
not only
woman.
that, senior public servants who are like 58, 59. And
Studying the pension.
Exactly. I said, me ain't doing that.
That's the livelihood. That's the livelihood.
I want my pension.
All that is going to the root of my employment as a worker and my supernation benefits in the long run.
Yeah.
And therefore, the Chief Secretary must call out Tobago tomorrow and say this comprises an existential threat to all Tobagonians. That is what it is in a
Max, I just say all Tobagonians.
I want to say all Tobagonians because you see the public service can't function. People are under
It
fear.
affects everybody.
It affects everybody. And therefore, right now, you're not sending money on time. You send it yet? They get the money yet?
Yeah.
They get the money from the Treasury yet? For this last
I don't know.
we don't know. And people are making noise on the streets. No one wants to know what the question means is that he's well placed to, as a public officer, to know certain things. Because the money is supposed to come quarterly and unblocked.
Yes, quarterly.
And if there is no, from what the Secretary for Public Administration, Ms. O. Williams, has explained, I understand because she's been there for a long time in many different areas.
Yes.
So she would understand the process. And so we have a problem.
No, I can say that, I can say that we don't have the CAS don't have a permanent secretary.
We don't have a permanent secretary.
Okay.
They do have a permanent
and
secretary.
the Prime Minister is taking long to appoint one. He has to tell it. If he says he lays the blame at the PSC's feet, I will say, Prime Minister, but did you write the commission? When did you write the commission? What is the keepback? Because it is affecting Tobago's money, is affecting
But moderator, if you go back to that, you see that executive note that the previous Secretary of Finance, the executive would have under Ansel Dennis, the former Chief Secretary, would have said, which goes something like this, where they didn't have no money to give out contract, but the executive would agree that certain contracts must be given out to do certain works, and the money will come. Let me tell you something.
He operated on a promise.
Yeah, and I operated on a promise. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. The Executive Council and the Secretary of Finance could never make those pronouncements unless you get the blessings of the Minister of Finance. Let me tell you something.
Certainly the Prime Minister will
and further, the Minister of Finance could never give those undertakings until he get the blessing
of the
head of the
cabinet.
Of cabinet.
But the Prime Minister.
Of the head of the cabinet. I don't know who said that.
You can't get away from it today.
We don't know who chaired that meeting. The Prime Minister could have been absent that day when that decision been taken, so the person who was heading that cabinet...
Ex officio, or not ex officio, by virtue of office, even though you're not there,
but
it's collectively responsible.
When I need public service, when money is released and you want to move $10, you have to write the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Finance before you could move that $10 in. $10 are telling you. So if the chief executive, the past executive council, and the former chiefs and the former secretary of finance could give her undertaking to issue contracts worth millions of dollars, and the money, they will source the money later.
Yeah.
He only, and I repeat, he only, from my understanding and my operation of the public service, he have to get the blessings from the Minister of Finance, and the Minister of Finance have to get the blessing from the head of the cabinet. Back my word.
You talk about...
I'm asking them because I truly don't know. Is there some kind of malfeasance or fraud involved there, you think?
Check the police.
You talk about Tobagonians, right?
Ask your question.
Check the police, I have no police.
No, I ask you for your opinion.
I know.
Wrapping up. Right? You talk about it could be seen as an attack on all Tobagonians, right? Right.
It is, yeah.
We have to also remember the minority and the members of the minority or the minority side, right? They are all Tobagonians too, and they have been very silent. How about this whole situation? What do you think is going through the minds of the minority right now? Is this something that they relish, or is this something that they should be worried too about also?
They should be worried if they're right thinking. I heard one of their leaders did tell me.
I
won't say, I don't say. But of course, they are leader. That the minority leader is on holidays. Because I didn't see him in a news conference. I say, hey, what Kelvin? He say, I believe he tell me lie, but he say, man on holidays. I wouldn't tell you who tell me, of course. I'm a partner. I say, he tried to fool this fool. Imagine that. Everybody tell me, you tried to fool the fool. A big man, you know. How old you could be, father. But you understand? So they're worthless guys. Absolutely worthless guys. They don't care. How it swing.
No, and not only that, they don't recognize it, that the institution, that they
must be
want
protected.
At some point in time,
they don't see it.
You have to stand up for something.
Or they sit where just don't care. That makes them shameless. Makes them shameless and utterly worthless.
Definitely.
People don't even
sense.
understand how much people laugh at them, you know. But they don't even understand that. People, I go walk about streets at Tobago, all where people laugh at these jokers.
All right. And so we are at the end of tonight's program. We want to thank you so much, Tobago, for joining us tonight on this hour-and-a-half program of For the Hour. All right? And I have been your host tonight. I'm Edison Thomas. Thank you so much to Mr. Barry Nelson and Mr. Max James. All right? And this is it for us from Tobago Upstate Studios. I'll see you guys next week. So until then, have a productive week, and I bid you adieu.